My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States. At Iba Pa. My name is Elaine Delalis, and I'm joined by my fellow host,
Ryan Carpio,
Joe Bernardo,
and
Mike,
producer Mike.
Woohoo.
And on today's mini episode, our TFAL of the episode is someone named Meeple Lady.
Meeple.
Meeple.
It's good people.
Meeple is good people. Thank you.
Patreon.
Thank you. And today we're going to talk about what, Ryan?
The CENSUS-maryosep. Joke lang. Census.
But before that, we do have a voicemail, right?
Yes, we do have a voicemail.
Sus-maryosep.
Here's the voicemail.
Hi, TFAL. My name's Alessandra. I'm from Arizona, and this is not really related to what I want to say, but there's going to be a Jollibee for the first time ever in Arizona, and I live near the area, so, that's great. But what I really wanted to say is I recently started listening to your guys' podcast because I'm, a young Filipino American, and I wanted to sort of find more about my identity and, how, what I can do as a Filipino American. And I recently did a project on Philip Veracruz, and he's sort of an unsung hero in the farm workers movement. So I thought it would be really interesting if you guys could talk about him or just other unsung heroes who are Filipino American, who most people don't really know about and who most Filipinos and Filipino Americans don't know about either. Because before I had done my project, I had never even known about him or his influence on the United Farm Workers. So yeah, thank you guys for all of your hard work.
Wow, that was really nice. Because we're also young Filipino Americans.
Heroes. You're my hero, Ryan.
Oh,
Nah.
I'm
You're the
really.
wind beneath my wing.
Oh, I'm actually really glad she left that voicemail message, because that's a change in the narrative from what we experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was her name again? Alessandra. Thank you for your voicemail. When I was in college, the conversation around farm workers was around Philip Veracruz.
Era Cruz. No?
That's awesome.
All right. Sorry.
Good job, Ryan. High five. That was the name that we knew. That was the books that we read in Filipino American history classes.
Yeah, because the biography was just published in 92, I believe, or somewhere around there.
And we were in college in the 2000 eras. And so that was the reference that 2010 is
And vicinity.
In the 2000s.
in the year 2000.
In the 21st century.
And so what we learned was about Philip Veracruz.
Yeah.
Larry Itliung was one of his partners, and Ben Guzman. Those were Ben Guzman, right?
No.
Oh no, Ben. Was it Ben?
Jamin?
Pete Velasco.
Manny
Andy Imutan.
Andy Muta.
There's a bunch of them.
There's a lot of people, but the first name it was always Philip Veracruz.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not taking credit.
No.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around the 2000s, mid 2000s, a lot of the narrative turned to Larry Itliung. And not to say that there's a competition, but that was kind of just the narrative that happened.
Yeah.
The discourse around the Filipino farm workers.
Because Philip Veracruz died, and then there wasn't anybody really to continue his legacy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's my understanding.
I don't know.
I don't know, but who knows? What we're saying is thanks for the call, and I'm curious about your report.
Yeah.
Or
send it to us.
Send it to us, thisfilipinoamericanlife@gmail.com.
Yeah. And there are a lot of unsung heroes in our community.
Yeah.
But the most unsung hero in our community is you.
Oh.
Whoa.
because everybody in our community is a hero.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
I thought you were talking to me.
No, I just
I didn't think you were talking about me, but okay.
and Mike and vicinity. No, no, because I also think that when we tend to like have these lists of heroes or kind of just any kind of list, there's a natural tendency to exclude other people.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of looking at what are the other unsung heroes, why don't we just celebrate our community and all the stuff that everybody does?
Thanks, Joe. That's really nice.
It's kind of Pollyannish, but
No, but I
all right.
think it helps with our Census-maryosep
I know,
it's true.
episode.
You count.
we can't.
And that's it. Thank you very much. The episode is only 5 seconds.
So census
1.
2
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
All right. So what do you know about the census?
10 years. It happens every 10 years.
Okay.
It helps to get an accurate count of the populations in your city, state, and the entire country
In vicinity.
and vicinity.
That, I mean, as a data person, it's a resource for me to understand kind of where people are at and what's happening with them.
What about you, Joe?
Oh, and to echo all three of your things.
Ditto.
Yeah, ditto. But yeah, the census happens every 10 years, and it's 2020, and the census is coming up this year.
Yeah, so when we say things like Filipino Americans are the largest population in California or API, is that correct?
Yep.
Where did we get the information, Ryan?
The census?
Mike, is that right?
I think so. No, we just did tallies and went up and down the state, and it's like you're Filipino. Okay.
There's a lot of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember filling out a census before
I remember.
in 2010?
Oh, shit.
Do we?
You didn't?
I don't remember. Did we? No, we did. We did because it was our first year.
Yes.
Living in Filipino town, or second year,
Second.
and so it was like the three of us.
Yes.
there.
Oh, we did do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Paolo was living.
Yeah.
With us, right?
Shout out Paulo Spiru.
Yeah, and I think Search to Involve Filipinos Americans at the time was doing census work.
Yeah.
But yeah, the census is a good way for all communities, especially marginalized communities, to show that we are here and show that there are certain perhaps resources that we need from the government, federal, state, and local. I remember when the 2010 census came out and all the numbers came out. I think for an entire weekend, I was such a nerd. And
Just the weekend.
shut up.
Seriously.
And I basically created my own kind of data spreadsheet of. Why are you laughing already, dude?
Did you do your own SPSS modeling on
Kinda, I
census
guess.
data?
I mean, I'm not really a statistician, but I kind of did my own.
All right.
And I basically broke down all the numbers of kind of Filipinos in different cities throughout the United States.
Did
in
you use that
metropolitan
in your
areas.
research?
I'm
trying to figure out
because it
why
was too
you.
present.
Oh,
No, I didn't.
you were just curious.
No, these are kind of the things I kind of like to do.
For funsies.
So I have this document. I'm pulling it up right now. Where is it? It is called 2010 Filipino American Demographics.
Wow.
And
I bet Mike's like salivating trying.
I know you're reminding me of something I did similar, but go ahead.
You did something similar, Mike? For what?
For Filipino Town.
oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did the same thing, and I was comparing my numbers to yours and kind of your.
Oh my God, you're like doing due diligence on the.
Well, no, I mean, mine was from like 2012, 13. I forgot it was. It was like from one of the 3-year estimates post the 2010 census, and I was trying to figure out what the changes were for just the census tracts that Filipino Town is in from like 2000 to 2010 or something.
Yeah.
And seeing how like the population has changed, has it increased or decreased in terms of certain demographics, and like how about like renters and things like that. I mean, I have it somewhere if I just dig it up, but yeah.
What will be asked of you in the census? Do you know?
Tell us.
You'll be asked a few simple questions.
Oh, okay.
Like age,
Oh, that's too hard.
sex,
Yes,
Ooh.
please. Sorry.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know. I'm sorry.
And the number of people who live in your home, including children.
Mm.
But it does it ask you income?
Yeah.
Oh, well, based on this sheet that I'm reading off of notes, I don't know.
So there's like I don't know if it's gonna be the same for this year, and maybe this is why we should do some research on this, but there's like a short form and a long form. And the short form is kind of your basics, and then the long form asks deeper questions about like, do you commute to work, or like, how much is your rent and stuff like that. And so they don't ask that of everybody, but like they use that as a sample that they use to kind of estimate kind of like how does it play out in the whole community.
I'm going to assume yes, because I'm looking at another infographic and there's a hand with a cash sign. So I think that means your income. And then there's like a graduation cap on top of book. So I think that's your educational level.
Mm-hmm.
There looks like a health symbol. So like your health, whatnot, your medical history, I guess. I don't know. And then there's like a highway sign. So I guess your commuting time. And then like a home.
Mm-hmm.
So like your home, like how many people live here. So yeah, I guess it would. I mean, that's how you get this data to do like income assessment of a community, correct?
Well, do you also know why the census is so important when it comes to our country?
Why, Mike?
Oh, because whatchamacallit, congressional seats.
Yeah. So our representation at different levels of government are dictated by these numbers, the districts that we live in. I mean, like, say you're in a city council district, like that doesn't always stay the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were always, 13 that we're in, in Filipino Town, but it wasn't always 13, right? And like those borders change too based upon these. So when the census happens and they do these counts, a lot of the districts you might have been familiar with in the last, decade might change because of that, because of the change in the demographics and population of where you live.
Yeah, and I think there was a little controversy last year. I actually was considering not to do the census.
Why?
Because if it was going to be used, if they're going to ask about your citizenship, and if they're going to ask, and I was like, if they're going to use this, like if ICE was going to use this against people, I felt like strongly that I didn't want to participate. However, that is not the case. The citizenship question is not going to be on the census, and and I would say if you are undocumented, to fill it out so that people know that we are there. It's really important because like if there are, what was on your data thing from 2010, how many Filipinos are there?
In what? In the entire U.S.?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or whatever, what's the info that you have?
Oh, well, hold on. What's the entire U.S.? Entire U.S. is... Where is it?
I want to guess.
Well, this is back in 2010, so
Yeah.
it's changed at 3.4 million.
3.4. Wow, really?
Yeah.
So it's 2020.
It's probably like, I'm guessing 5.
5. And then what if like a good number of that is like 500,000 people are undocumented?
I don't know about half,
overestimating,
yeah.
huh? But like that's still a population, right? That we should consider. So like it's important that we do that and I'm very happy that citizenship question is not there. So
real quick, the questions that aren't on the 2020 census, the Census Bureau does not ask for a social security number, your bank account information about political party affiliation, and the form will not include any questions about a person's religion or citizenship status. So that's kind of relief, right?
Yes.
To be able to, yeah.
And I wouldn't want to give that info to people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So to quell a lot of the nerves
Yeah.
that people might have about the census.
And if anybody is asking you that under the guise of the census, you can tell them, no, I will not answer that. That's not a part of the questionnaire, the appropriate part of the questionnaire.
Yeah. You ever get those calls asking you for your social security number or?
Yeah, like some Robotron or something. Yeah.
They're tricky.
I know.
Those guys are tricky.
So like if you get like a census type one, then
Oh, that's going to
How
be
would you know?
problematic, huh?
but usually you send out Usually the form's done
Come
by
through
mail, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I know now you could do it online.
That's what I was gonna ask. How different is it now? Because they will still send it to you by mail. I think up to several times if you haven't responded yet. But Elaine, do you have in your notes that if it can be done digitally? I think they have an option.
Yeah, there isn't. You will be able to respond to the census online.
Okay.
So it's to make things so much easier since we are in an age where you utilize your computer or even just your phone, right, to like interact with everything.
Yeah.
So if that's a way for you to respond, I would definitely utilize that as a way to get counted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important just for our community because historically our community has always been kind of undercounted.
Right.
And we know there's a lot more Filipinos than what the numbers say.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, these are the numbers I crunched, being a nerd that I am. Just for that weekend.
To be clear.
The LA Consolidated Statistical Area, so basically like LA, Orange County, Inland Empire, had the highest number of Filipinos anywhere in the country, anywhere outside the Philippines actually, with 606,657 Filipinos. So it's over 600,000 Filipinos living in this area.
Wow.
The next was the Bay Area, 463,000 in the Bay Area. And then next was New York, San Diego, Honolulu, Chicago, Seattle, and Vegas. And that's how we chose our T-shirts. Was based
that's
off
true.
of.
Oh my God, your analysis, your nerding out
So
weekend
basically
resulted
people-
in our marketing strategy.
People in Florida telling us, how come we don't have a Florida one? It's because you're not in the top like 8 or 9 statistical areas
Also
of Filipinos.
Which maybe means maybe you need to like participate in the census and make
Yeah.
sure you're represented in that data.
Yeah, because what happens if the census tract shows us the increase of Filipinos in Jacksonville, Florida,
I'm sure there are.
or in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Yeah, maybe we make a T-shirt.
and then maybe it's in Pennsylvania, right?
Which one?
You mean
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yes. I was waiting for you to like come to it.
I'm really bad at geography,
So
guys.
I found my data sheet actually. It's like thanks to Google never deleting anything, I suppose. And it was a profile of Filipino Town. And so it was the change from 2000 to 2010. So in Filipino Town, 25% increase in total population. Filipinos at that time was 17.2% of the neighborhood, but it was a decrease from like 2.5% from 2000. So it was going down actually.
Oh wow.
The biggest increase racially, ethnically was white Caucasians, 13.3% increase in those 10 years. Also, a decrease in foreign-born citizens, and an increase in number of renters, actually, percentage of renters. So that it was just interesting to kind of see, from when Filipino Town was starting to come into its own, finally get its designation a few years later, to like the point in time in which I did this analysis, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, and we used it for some community discussion forums, actually, to say like, okay, what are the issues that are present in historic Filipino Town today? And by the way, here is how things have changed since, not too much before the naming even happened. So
I did show, like, we have to compare because I think I showed like a increase of Filipinos. And never
and so
mind.
the problem too, though, was like this is some nerding out
I
right
know.
now.
Yeah.
Is that like between censuses, like census tracts can change, and so like it's not always exactly the same areas that you're.
Is that Sensei?
CENSUS-maryosep. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that we have numbers to look at and play with and debate, like I think is part of like how we make sure that we know our community is seen and heard and addressed.
So what does that mean then? What does it mean to be counted? Like, why do we want to do this?
So, for example, in my kind of crunching numbers, I saw that San Francisco San Francisco's Filipino population decreased by 17%
Whoa.
between 2000 and 2010. So what that tells us is that a lot of Filipinos are either dying or moving.
They're getting
Right.
displaced.
They're getting displaced. I mean, you can,
That's one argument.
That's one argument.
yeah.
Yes.
But just looking at just the plain numbers,
Yeah.
that helps the argument.
Okay.
That saying that Filipinos are getting displaced. And where are they going to? A lot of Filipinos in the Bay Area are actually moving to the Central Valley in Stockton. So in between 2000 and 2010, Filipino population increased by 41% in Stockton.
Whoa.
In Stockton.
Wow.
Same time.
41?
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah. So that tells us people are moving to the Central
Yeah.
Valley. In Chula Vista, for example, Chula Vista's Filipino population increased by 108%.
Holy crap!
Whoa.
More than
Yeah.
doubled.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what that will look like for Sacramento, since there was like a recent article of saying that a bunch of folks were moving out of the city, out of SF,
Yeah.
into Sacramento because that's where the jobs were shifting
Yeah.
towards.
Yes.
And probably affordability too.
Yeah, and affordability.
Filipinos are moving to the Inland Empire, to Vegas, especially, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an argument to be made that we were undercounted before and we're now now everyone's being counted more accurately? Would you say that
I don't know.
a certain portion of that argument, because that seems like a lot, right?
Well, the undercount comes from immigrant communities who are not familiar with the
Right.
census and not familiar with the whole process.
Or maybe you're worried what it means to participate. even.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the whole purpose of getting counted is so that the funding can be
Yes.
allotted towards resources in your community,
Right.
right? So like that's the dollars that goes towards public clinics, towards schools, towards creating more infrastructure for public transit. So like in Los Angeles, our public transit system is very poor. At least if you're not within like downtown or like into the areas where the train goes, right? If you're beyond that, it's like you have to have a car. The
Yeah.
sprawl here warrants it.
Takes me an hour and a half on the bus
Oh my God, Joe.
to get to work.
It takes me an hour and a half to get home in my car.
CENSUS-maryosep.
But see, like, if you get counted and if you say your commute, that can impact then like
Where public transit is made available.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the development around public transit is based upon that commute, like where are people coming from and where are they going to work, right? And if we don't know where that is, then there's no telling where the train lines and the bus lines will be kind of set up, and so it's very much based upon kind of an estimation of an actual measurement of demand and like necessity. Working in downtown, I mean, there's a lot of folks who commute from the outlying areas, taking like the Metrolink or something, right? And so, the fact that a Metrolink train even exists is because though there are new population centers, in which people who work in LA are coming from. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's not just public transportation, it's schools, right? You
Yes.
said schools. I would even argue like it affects people's churches, right?
Oh, totally.
Right? Like, especially how the Catholic Church is organized, where it's very, there's a central bureaucracy kind of, and they kind of distribute a lot of resources. They probably use a lot of census data to figure out where resources go.
Well, a lot of nonprofits use it too when they apply for
absolutely.
grants and making sure that like the resources are put in the right places. Like, resources are representing exactly the people it serves, right? The type of people it serves. So it's really important that you get counted, or that we all get counted.
Yeah, and the fact that like, it probably also the hospitals that many of our family works at, all that census data probably goes into how many resources go to certain hospitals, and that affects like nursing staff, doctor staff, etc. So it all affects all of us. So you must fill out the census.
CENSUS-maryosep.
Yes.
And you can do that at the number 2020 census CENSUS.gov. What is that, Ryan?
2020 census.gov. Right?
What is it, Mike?
What you
2020 census.gov.
I think Google will tell me later if I.
And just to let people know, we are not getting paid for this.
Wait, what?
If people
Joke
think, the
around.
census is just paying TFAL to say all this stuff.
Now they
By
pay
the way,
us.
Yeah,
Oh,
we missed that
hell
boat actually. But no, I mean, I think it's important to all of us for many
Very.
different reasons. So
Yeah, because I want to nerd out for another weekend when the census data comes out.
you have the census debate. It's like, which census tract did you use?
That's inaccurate information.
And it's also like translated into different languages, I imagine. There are like 12 different languages that it gets translated to. They're trying to make it as easy as possible for folks to fill out. So, you know, I know this is this Filipino American life, and we are encouraging a lot of Philams out there to be counted, but this is really for everybody.
Do you know what metropolitan area in the United States grew the fastest between 2000 and 2010?
I do.
What is it?
Las Vegas.
Yes.
How did you know that?
Everyone knows that.
How did you know that?
I don't know. It's one of those things that was always in the news.
I also think that we may have said that in our.
Yeah, we might have said it in the Vegas episode also.
Okay. Do you know how many Filipinos
3
alone
Oh, no,
or
sorry.
in any combination live in the Dallas-Fort Worth
Dallas
metropolitan area?
3. I'm just kidding.
250,000.
No, that's too
That's a
much.
lot.
That's too high.
Yes.
No.
I was gonna
That's
guess
the entire state of
25,000.
Hawaii.
Oh, never mind.
I think 25,000.
25,000.
I think that's a lot.
What I said Dallas, right?
Yeah.
33,800.
Oh, closest about going over.
Ah.
What did you say?
That's only 5,000. That's
Oh.
$1.
$1. Price is Right rule.
Yes. But yes, I believe in the census. Shout out to Ivy Dulay Daulo and Pilar Diaz and Tangina, what's his name?
Wow.
The guy who's
The Count?
Eric La Chica.
Oh,
Eric La Chica, sorry.
1.
Shout out to them who's doing a lot of work. Shout out to the Filipino census count committee of Los Angeles County. There's also a count committee for 8 counties in the Bay Area that I know of.
Oh, really?
Yes, who's doing work around the census there. Shout out to all the census workers. You're doing really good work.
Yes.
But yeah, everybody do your job and fill out those census forms.
Fill out your census form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I just really love that Sesame Street song. This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.